Welcome back everyone to another episode of Shinkara. One of my favorite series of games this generation has been the Atelier Ayesha games. They combine beautiful cel-shaded graphics with alchemy-based gameplay to provide an experience I've grown fond of. These games remind me of Harvest Moon a bit in the sense that you're always busy foraging for items and doing tasks around town. On paper they can sound kind of boring, but once you start playing they just suck you in for hours on end. However, the Atelier Ayesha trilogy finished with Atelier Meru, and we now have ourselves a new saga beginning with today's game, Atelier Ayesha, the Alchemist of Dusk. The title retains a lot of the series elements like alchemy and performing tasks, but also mixes up the gameplay and presentation quite a bit. Are all these changes for the better? Let's take a journey into the world of alchemy and find out.
Okay, Panna, let's go!
Atelier Ayesha tells the story of Ayesha Al-Tugul, a young girl who runs an herbalist shop. She inherited the shop from her grandfather who's passed away. In the past, Ayesha ran it together with her sister Neo. However, one day while searching for herbs, Neo mysteriously disappeared. Sometime later, our heroine Ayesha is walking through some ruins and sees her sister Neo, only she's a bit more spirit-like. She cries out to her, but Neo doesn't appear to hear her and vanishes. Ayesha later encounters a man named Keith who tells her that if she learns the ways of alchemy, there may be a way to rescue her sister. And so, Ayesha leaves her shop behind to set out on a journey to find Neo. Oh, and you won't forget her either, as they mention Neo a lot at the beginning of the game.
Neo! With everything that happened with Neo.
I think Neo liked this candy.
Neo?
Say hi to Neo for me.
Mr. Anderson.
I like the story in premise, but the way in which it's delivered has a few missteps. I will say that one of the more welcome features is how Atelier Ayesha presents the dialogue. In past games, almost all dialogue was done with static images and text. You like that style, right? But now in Ayesha, all dialogue is done with character models. I personally love this change, but it can look kind of silly at times with their mouths continuing to move when their spoken dialogue is finished. As previously mentioned, there's a character named Keith that you'll continually run into, who seems to know an awful lot about alchemy. He also seems to know how to save your sister, but constantly tells you how to figure it out for yourself. You'll understand why he's like this, but I feel like there could have been a better story device, as you'll really find this character annoying. Through your journey you'll encounter a colorful cast of characters, which is a pretty big mixed bag. There are some throwaway characters like Marietta, who runs the supply shop, and then there's the exuberant shop owner Harry, who can be funny at times. My favorite was Regina, who's a bit of an awkward tomboy. There are a number of entertaining encounters with her throughout the game that I really enjoyed. Atelier Ayesha is littered with JRPG and anime stereotypes, but you'll likely latch onto a few of them throughout the adventure.
Jeez, you're always saying stuff like that. I start blushing whenever you call me cute.
Like in past Atelier games, you'll be mixing items to perform alchemy, fighting monsters, and interacting with townsfolk. However, Ayesha mixes up the formula a bit. Get it? Mixes up anyway. The end goal is to save your sister Neo, but the way in which you get there is very unclear. Throughout the game you'll have tasks put in your notebook. These tasks can range from fully exploring an area to delivering items to townsfolk. Completing tasks rewards you with memory points, which you can spend to record memories in your journal and earn bonuses. The game seems to revolve around earning these memory points, as just about anything you do earns them. That being said, it's difficult to tell if you're progressing in the story at all. Near the beginning of the game, there's a vague offhand comment about having 3 years to save Neo before she's lost forever. So as you're playing through the game, you're reminding yourself you have 3 in-game years to save her. But what's the best way to do so? Do you develop your alchemy skills? Do you explore areas? Do you go on hunts? There's no way to tell, and you just end up going down your notebook's checklist without ever really knowing. About 6 or so hours in, I noticed that any tasks with a star next to it seem to lead to more significant events, but I still don't really know if that's the best route to progress. In previous games you had a very specific checklist of tasks by a specific date to complete, but the game was essentially over. In Ayesha, the game gives you more freedom, but at the risk of making you feel lost. I would have preferred a more streamlined design, as that's how the 3 previous titles have handled the gameplay. And that's sort of the problem with Atelier Ayesha. I feel like it's trying to do something new while abandoning what made past titles engaging. In past games, it was all about synthesizing a list of items by a certain date. If you didn't have the ingredients, you would go forage local areas or hunt animals for them. That was the strength of the Atelier Arlen games, keeping you in a rhythm, always doing something, much like in Harvest Moon. They even had side events now and again that were fun to experience. In Ayesha, they're more of a nuisance. Seems like anytime you go anywhere, a scene pops up that I guess is supposed to flesh out characters, but ends up being annoying. You just want to keep chugging away at tasks, but you're constantly interrupted by these events. Very rarely are they worth sitting through. Unless you really like some of the characters, you'll likely skip through most of them like I did.
Guess I'll never enter the ruin like this.
I'm sorry. Hannah is extremely fond of delicious grass.
One thing you won't want to skip out on is the art in this game. The Atelier games have been known for beautiful art styles, and Ayesha definitely does not disappoint in this department. Character models all look highly detailed and stylish. I rather enjoyed the character designs as well. While most of the cast is female, they're all very unique from one another. Environments, while not highly detailed, still look good. What's back again, unfortunately, from Atelier Maru is frame rate issues. I can't for the life of me understand how these games continue to have frame rate problems. The environments are actually really small and not dense in the slightest. Considering Gust had 3 games to figure this out and how Rorona and Toturi don't have these problems, I can't fathom how these issues are still present. I know some people don't notice these things, but it's something that really bothers me. The music in the game isn't anything special, but definitely fits the vibe of the game well. There's also a massive variety of tracks, with well over 100 in total. Sooner or later, you're certain to find your favorite.
I think I got stronger. All right!
I'm sad to say that I was pretty disappointed with Atelier Ayesha. I was a pretty big fan of the last 3 entries in the series and had high hopes for this one. Instead of improving on the strengths of the series, Ayesha abandons them to try something new. Unfortunately, this risk did not pay off. With a relatively weak story, confusing game progression, and performance issues, it's really hard for me to recommend this game. If you're still interested in the series, I'd recommend Atelier Rorona or Atelier Toturi. They're much better in my opinion and probably much more affordable at this point. Sorry to be such a downer, but I had to tell it like it is. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Shinkara. Thanks once again for watching everyone, and we'll see you next time.